If you ever felt like growth means adding more to your plate, today's conversation might change your mind. We're joined by Austin Church, growth advisor and founder of the Freelance Cake. We talk positioning, content as a true asset, and why subtraction might just be the smartest growth strategy. Let's pass the mic. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the ClearVoice mic, short for Marketers in Conversation. I'm Taylor Moon, Director of Content here at ClearVoice, and today I'm joined by Austin Church, who is a growth advisor and founder of Freelance Cake, and we're really going to pass the mic and see where the conversation takes us. Hey, Austin.
Thanks for having me, Taylor. I'm glad to be here.
How are you doing today?
I am alive. I always think of that line from Monty Python.
It's a great
I'm not
start.
dead yet. You know, I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead.
That's a great way to start the day.
That's
So
right.
all's well. You know, I have followed you a bit. I know a little bit about you and your journey, but for those that don't, I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of an intro, who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I still sometimes think of myself as an accidental businessman, accidental entrepreneur. I can look back and realize I always liked money. So maybe it was inevitable that I would get into entrepreneurship and marketing because
Sure.
these are both closer to the money. But I went to school for literature. I got a job at a
Mm-hmm.
marketing agency right out of grad school. Had a huge identity crisis because what business did a poet have working at a marketing agency? But I took to it. I really enjoyed writing copy. I really enjoyed the strategy side. Got laid off, and that kind of kickstarted my journey down the road of entrepreneurship. Since then, I've had what has felt and maybe even looked like a bunch of mini careers with
Sure.
writing and entrepreneurship and marketing being the through lines. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I still confuse my parents when I try to explain what it is that I do.
Don't we all?
But most of the time, I just tell people that I help my clients find the path to better. And when those clients are companies, usually still small, so like $1 to $10 million in revenue,
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping them in that marketing advisory role. When I'm
Yeah.
helping my peers, other freelancers and consultants and fractionals, I'm more of a business coach and mentor. Still work from the same signature framework, but helping people find the path to better. That's what I do.
I love that. And you and I could have a total tidbit conversation down the road because I myself didn't do literature, the journalist and
Hmm.
journalism major, but I write poetry. So we
There
could
you go.
we could we
Yes.
could talk all day about how it's funny how we wind up in these things. But I think it takes a creative. So that's just my hot take.
That's right.
But yeah, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit. You kind of already prefaced, if you will, but a little bit about your journey. If I understand correctly, you've held a lot of fractional roles,
Mm-hmm.
helping various companies, right? As I believe CMO, and really helping the overall strategy and push things along in that regard. And that kind of opened up the doors for Freelance Cake, if I'm not mistaken. And you've been able to, what you've said perfectly is still have that business perspective where you're helping businesses along, but you're also helping others that are fractional
Mm-hmm.
employees building their own freelance business. So you get to kind of do two prong. And would you mind kind of opening the doors a little bit more into that and what you do at Freelance Cake?
Sure. So 2018, I was working as a fractional CMO with a couple of CEOs. I guess they were presidents, not CEOs, but I was working with a couple of presidents as the de facto marketing leader, advisor, strategist on their teams. And, a lot of marketing comes back to fundamentals. And at the time, I was focusing on what I call the 4 Ps: positioning, packaging, pricing, and pipeline. And so whether I was working with a big e-commerce company, which was one of my clients, whether I was working with a manufacturing company, another of my clients, I was thinking about the 4 Ps, right? Then randomly, this guy named Robert finds me online. He has read several of my blog posts, and he gets in touch after also having bought several of my products. Like I had a little guide about pricing yourself based on what you're worth, not based on how much time a project takes. And anyway, he said, hey, like, would you be willing to coach me one-on-one? And up to that point, I'd done one-off clarity sessions with clients because I know how to listen. I believe in the value of really thoughtful questions. I have this fundamental belief that most people already hold the answers they need inside of themselves, but a lot of us haven't slowed down long enough.
Got to talk it out. Yeah.
Yes, to let that awareness catch up. So I was already accustomed to creating and holding that space, and would do that with a president or a founder or CEO as well. If their thinking was muddled or they just lacked that clarity, I'm like, well, hey, let's get you that clarity. Clarity begets confidence. Confidence begets decisive action. So most of the people I worked with already had a bias toward action. They just needed help with clarity, right? So Robert gets in touch, and so what do I do with Robert? I'm like, well, I guess I'll do the 4 Ps. It's like, that's what just about any business owner needs. And then now what has come from that is like a much more mature and sort of not sophisticated, but maybe just mature. My signature framework has matured beyond 4 Ps, but whether I'm helping a consultant or a fractional or a freelancer, or I'm helping a company that's doing millions in revenue, both, when they think about growth, need to go back to the same growth levers. They need to press the lever against the same fulcrum, which is usually subtraction. What can we take away? And then which lever they pick at any given time needs to be constrained by what are our goals right now and what is our timeline. So if you have this value for subtraction and you believe in growth by subtraction, and you know what the levers are, and you clarify goals and timeline, then it's so much easier to come up with a strategy and a plan that is timely and that is exciting and galvanizing and brings people together. And again, the high performing people on your team, they want to do great work. They want to see their impact. And so, yeah, that signature framework has really helped me even to feel less fractured in my own focus, because like I said, whether I'm working with a company or an individual, I'm like, I'm going to do the exact same thing with you.
Absolutely. I love that the methodology is like, it's the same. There's nuances, but at the end of the day, it's the same. It's the same approach. It's the same foundation that we have to go, because at the end of the day, a brand is a brand, and you might be a person, but there's a personal brand within that as well. So it's kind of a very similar tactic, similar approach. And, I know a little bit, and you shared a little bit in your intake form with us as well. I'd love if you could kind of walk us through a little bit. You're very helpful and focused on helping those freelancers and businesses really identify what you call as shareable advantages. Can you kind of start breaking down what that means and why it matters, probably even more so right now than anything?
So I have the advantage of a college education and a master's degree and books that I've read, and character or personality traits I have a set of advantages that I can't share. So do you, so does every person we meet. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain advantages that each of us has. Oh, this person is really funny. I'm not really funny.
Yeah.
That person's really attractive. I'm not really attractive. Is that an advantage? Probably. You know, I'm really tall, or I'm really fast, or I'm a really good driver, or I'm really good at solving mechanical problems. Like, some people just have advantages that they can't pass on to other people, sometimes not even to their kids, right? There is a whole other set of advantages that I think of as shareable advantages that within a business context give you better results with less effort. And sometimes, and we see this play out in business a lot, some of those advantages can even help people who, all other things being equal, are the same.
Yeah.
Like, you have one company that does HVAC repair, and then you have another company that does HVAC repair. The service that they provide is nearly identical. But if company A just thinks of a service as a service, HVAC repair, you can get it anywhere. I hope you'll call us, but whatever. Company B is like, oh, people don't buy services, people buy offers. And offers, the really good ones at least, are tied to painful, expensive problems that people want to see disappear, and ideally within a predictable time frame. So if HVAC repair company B has a really good offer that they've put around what may otherwise be a commodified service like HVAC repair, and I'm the consumer and I don't buy services, I buy the sudden departure of my own problems, and I see a really good offer that speaks directly to the, like, I don't want to be sweating in my own home. And
What are my pain points and challenges?
you're
Yes.
telling me that you will get my problem fixed on the first visit, or you give me 110% refund and you fix the problem. I mean, I see no risk in calling company B.
Mm-hmm.
So a really juicy offer is one advantage. It's available to anyone. Like, once you know that a juicy offer differentiates you from your competitors, why wouldn't you put together a juicy offer? So I became obsessed with this idea of advantages, but not, like I said, not advantages that are inborn or
Mm-hmm.
were painstakingly acquired over decades, because you're kind of like, well, sure, you have an advantage if you have a PhD or you've
Sure.
written a book, or yeah, I'm thinking about what advantages can be learned and utilized in a relatively short period of time. See what I
Yes.
mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I just started collecting them and thinking about them, turning them over my mind and being like, okay, what is the best way to teach these? What's the best way to help people start to use
Mm.
these? And it won't surprise you that some of those ended up in my signature framework, because I'm like, well, hey, rather than go try to track, rather than go try to acquire an advantage that might be really difficult or might take you years, what if we were instead to look at your company's positioning? You've already got some positioning. Is it working for you?
Mm.
Are you positioning yourself against competitors? Or are you positioning yourself against the most painful, expensive problem that your dream customers have? That's the better
Killer dream. Yeah,
positioning,
yeah, yeah.
right? Now, maybe you do both, right? But positioning is another one of those advantages that's within easy reach. So I, as someone who loves a good idea and I love strategy and I love to make things better and help them grow, it's just the way I'm wired. Yeah, wouldn't I, because of how I'm wired and what I'm passionate about, turn my clients' attention toward advantages that will help them get better results with less effort in weeks, not years.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, the first example that you gave to really struck me and kind of sticks out, probably, I mean, would always, but probably even more so now in the, here we go with the typical like lingo that we're hearing everywhere, in the dawn and the era of
The
AI. Right.
advent of
Yes.
AI.
Yes. But it's funny because everything does come back to experience and going and relating to what is a real offering and human need for that offering.
Mm-hmm.
And like what is the advantage? What is the positioning within that? So I love that you framed it up, and I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, that might be a key thing to look at to why it's so relevant always, but yes, even probably more so I guess today.
Yeah. I mean, people who sell a service, especially especially a creative service that seems to be under threat by AI right now, we're wise to double down on our own humanness. Like, what are the things that enable me to do what I do better than a large language model? And an LLM, despite how, you put in a prompt and chat GPT is like, Taylor, that's a great idea. And you're like,
It's very validating.
yeah, maybe so, but it wasn't as great as you're making it out to be. Like, it's so funny how
It
so
was my
many of
shower
these,
thought chat.
yeah,
I
you're
just
just
thought of
like, it
this in the
was a
shower.
random idea, it wasn't genius, but whatever. Right, it's like the one friend who like praises you too much and you're like, that just makes me uncomfortable, I don't feel like you're being real with me. So we need to double down on our humanness, and one way we
Mm.
do that is with empathy. One way we do that is by pushing back. One way we do
Hmm.
that is by telling better stories. One of our advantages, ironically, is pain. Like, machines don't suffer. And so if you can truly understand and you actually deeply care about your
Hmm.
clients and how doing things the wrong way pushes what they want further and further out into the distance,
Yeah.
and you're like, no, I can help you reel that in, I can help you get that faster, and then you tell relatable stories and you prove that you truly understand their pain,
Yeah.
compassion. Like, there's so many
Hmm.
things that people will always do better than LLMs. Meanwhile, some of the AI tools are just dazzling in their capabilities. And so I don't have that sort of binary thinking. I'm both and, but now more than ever is a time to understand what your advantages are, whether they're shareable or not,
Not. Mhm.
and fully embrace those and build your business around, one, the constants that will not change, and then two, what makes you who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of looking at, yes, what advantage you inherently have. Okay, and combining those right with what your shareables are. I love that. And I'm curious, in all your work thus far with different businesses, brands, and freelancers, is there maybe like an advantage, a shareable advantage that is constantly overlooked? Or is it
Yeah.
kind of a myriad of things?
So this is one that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but I'll call it strategic subtraction, like subtraction as an advantage. Like, businesses, like other systems, naturally become more complex over time,
Yeah.
and yet complexity doesn't scale. Whether it's an individual or a company, they often get in touch with me for the exact same reason. Well, we're not growing the way we want to. Now, what growth means to them could look like more revenue for a company. It could look like growing a specific business line or launching a new product. On the
Yeah.
individual side, it might look like, I just want to be able to go to all my kids' field trips and be the chaperone and not have to worry about checking my inbox. Or, hey, we just want to be able to take summers off and travel as a family. Whatever
Yeah.
the desired growth looks like may vary, but
Hmm.
what most people encounter when they try to grow is the complexity of the business as it currently stands is a major obstacle. And so an advantage available to anyone is to look at all that complexity and start pruning it back and saying, hey, all of these products or all these services, all of the things that I've done in the past, even all my offers, right? Like that's the irony, is having a juicy offer is an advantage.
Yeah.
Having too many introduces complexity, and now that's become
Absolutely.
that advantage becomes a disadvantage. So to make the hard cuts, to subtract, to do like Dieter Rams, industrial designer from, working from like the 40s through like the 80s in the 20th century. He had this one design principle, less but better. So if you have the courage and you take a methodical approach to doing less but better, and to do that strategic subtraction, you will unlock growth. Like, I'll tell this last little thing. My grandmother grew up on a farm and she always had a garden, and I would work with her out in her garden. She always had these tomato plants, and she taught me to pinch off the suckers. The suckers were these little sprouts where leaves would meet stems. And so you'd have this new stem trying to grow right there. And she said, oh, you always pinch off the suckers. And I was like, why? And she would explain, well, once the plant has grown, it's kind of established where nutrients need to go. So the last thing you want is for those suckers to take nutrients away from the main stems. So the best way to maximize your yield of tomatoes is to, every once in a while, you just go into your garden and you start pinching off the suckers. Like, they were never going to have the potential that the main stem already has. So it becomes about better resource allocation, which is what CEOs have to think about all the time, right?
Yeah.
But with strategic subtraction, this advantage, you have to look at your business like a tomato plant and say, where are the suckers, and will we have the courage to pinch them off?
First off, I love all of that. I personally relate to that because my grandpa had, and he would go with me in tomatoes. We do the same thing. He didn't have an explanation as to why. That's just what we did.
It's just what you do, right?
Yeah. So that makes me laugh. But I love what you're saying here. And really, to me, it is interesting because whenever you have a strategy meeting, or it's like, hey, man, like, what do? We need to scale. We need to do this. And what do we need to do more? Everyone's thinking of it.
It's always additive. It's always additive.
You're always thinking of it like, what else can I do? As opposed to taking a deep breath, maybe, really thinking like, wait, how can we simplify this? How can we do more with less? Because we have a lot going. It's convoluted. It's complicated. I mean, it's working, but how can we make it more efficient? And how can we make it more efficient without adding more to the pot? Because that's not going to be effective. And so it's funny. We always go into it with that mindset of like, what else can I do?
Yeah. So. The default posture is always, let me orient myself toward addition. And it's not that I need to come in and be the contrarian. In fact, being the polite Southerner, more often than not, I'm having to like fight my own impulse to be agreeable. But I have developed certain exercises. One of them I called 20 stories, where I get a new client to tell me a little story about the last 20 deals or customers they got.
Oh, wow.
And so if they'll just tell me the story, then we look for patterns. And I'm like, oh, so you got them after you were a guest on a podcast. Okay, cool. You got them because you sent out an email newsletter. Okay, cool. And we're telling the stories. And so it never ceases to amaze me how we'll do the 20 story exercise, and what they got in touch with me originally. Hey, we have these ideas. We want to grow. Can you help us with X, Y, and Z? there's usually very little similarity between what they've done historically to get customers and how do we double down on that. That almost is never what they get in touch with me about. It's like, how do we add this net new effort and not forget net new? Are we maximizing the things that have historically proven to work for us? The answer is almost never yes, almost always no. And so I've created these exercises to help people sort of reposition themselves and point themselves at maybe it would be a relief to do less, and maybe it would be more effective, meaning we would grow faster if we just kind of ruthlessly chop down some things and put more resources into fewer strategies.
Hyper focus too of where we really need to be. And that kind of 20 stories to me also really would paint a great picture of where you can really see what works, what doesn't. Okay, that's where we shift. That kind of helps us understand where we need to align then more than anything.
Everybody's had a bad experience with a consultant who comes in and swings her weight around and is like, all right, we need to do everything differently. Like we need to take like drastic intervention. Like it's, I think, much kinder. And honestly, you typically will meet much less resistance if you start with the data, even if it's anecdotal, like the anecdotal data they've already got. And you're like, let's see what's already working. And maybe we ought to do more of what's working before we add net new efforts. Same result, meaning I get them pointed toward subtraction. Because honestly, even like as an outsider, it's going to be easier for me to get a case study if I help them simplify first. It's easier just to scale a simpler marketing effort than it is to scale a complex marketing effort. So.
Yes. And we all know in marketing how easy it is to add on A/B tests, do different things, but you gotta get really good at what you're good at first in order to dip your toe into other things. Otherwise, you just stressed yourself pretty far.
Yes.
And you're not 100%. Effective or good in any of them. You're okay, maybe, right?
That's right. More broadly mediocre.
or that, you know. Yeah. You know, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your personal brand. You know, you've built a pretty strong personal brand, I would say specifically on LinkedIn, obviously elsewhere as well, but you've got quite a hefty amount of followers. You know, in the realm of content, and that's obviously where I sit and where ClearVoice really tends to sit, is I'd love to know what role does content really play in creating these advantages for you?
So I'll just be honest. To this day, I still don't believe I do content very well. And I'll explain what I mean by that, because I was just being equally candid with a coaching client. I've written hundreds of LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
And I know how content builds authority. It's not the smartest people who get hired. It's not the best people who get hired. It's typically the people who are easiest to find. And if you are active in sharing your point of view, you make yourself easy to find. You eventually build some authority. Now, whether you are truly an authority compared to other people in your niche or field or whatever, sometimes only a true expert will be like, oh yeah, she's an A+ and he's a C-.
Sure.
But the people in their target audience, if he's the louder voice, may just think, well, he's the one who has all the authority. And that's like quantifiably not true. But the point I was making earlier was, as important as I think it is to show up online, to show up often talking about the same ideas you want to be known for.
Yes.
And it's the consistency that ultimately creates the authority, right? I look at so many of my posts and I'm like, the ideas were good, but the packaging could have been a lot better. Now, I'm a
Sure.
good writer, but just because you're a good writer does not mean you'll make good content.
Oh, I agree. A lot
You
of people
know,
might misunderstand that, but that's very much a thing. Yeah.
I see people who make good content that I do not consider good writers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't see any stylistic choices that I admire. I don't see, because English is my first language, I don't see English prose that I would ever want to emulate in any way. So, like, when I think about writing, it's more than just the transmission of ideas. That being said, there are plenty of writers on LinkedIn whose content is very, very effective at driving their business goals. And I would never want to read their book because I don't think they're gifted writers.
Sure.
And I even look at posts that get a lot of attention, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of impressions. And I look
Hmm.
at it and I'm like, that's not even his idea. That's an idea he took from this book.
Hmm.
But sometimes the quality of the writing does not matter if the execution or the packaging of the post
Yeah.
is on point. I don't like to say that, but it's true.
Yeah. And it kind of, in my opinion, kind of like, what is it? What's the subject? And does it, I guess we're going full circle here, but does it resonate with someone else? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does it connect at the end of the day?
Even if the packaging is clumsy, according to some guy who got his master's degree in creative writing, my opinion doesn't matter. Like, if it's resonant, to your point. So
Yeah.
I have built a personal brand. I think I've built it a lot more slowly than I had to build it. If I were to do it all over again, I would pay a lot more attention to hooks. I would pay a lot more attention to the visuals that I was putting with the posts, whether it's a carousel, an illustration, short form video, whatever. So again, if you want to play the content game, sometimes you have to set aside your pretensions and you have to say, what are the rules of this game? And this game on LinkedIn is different than this game on TikTok is different than this game on Instagram or even like an email newsletter, and recognize, yeah, some people who are really good at playing the game, you don't share their ethics or their values. You don't even think they're very good at video or writing or even illustration, but learn from everyone.
Yeah.
And then it sounds so crass to say it, but do what works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an interesting take too, because this question of like, how should marketers really think about content, not just as an output? I feel like that also people are hesitant to do it because it's a task, it's an output, right? But it's also an asset that compounds over time. And how should that shift of thought, or perhaps maybe a more balanced perspective, like how should marketers reach that? What would your advice be in that regard?
So I think we tend to rightly think that content is ephemeral,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that we take that truth and we use it to devalue content, right? Because if you, and I think we devalue content in part because we don't see every single post as a way that you like widen your net. And you and I were joking before we started recording about how having kids is expanding the surface area of what can go wrong. Every single well done post is expanding the surface area where a potential customer or collaborator or event organizer who could hire you as a speaker or whatever, you're expanding the surface area of where they can come in contact with you, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you kind of think content is dumb and you think social media is stupid and you have a kind of low grade disgust for this, that will come through in your content. If, on the other hand, you see content as like a way that you can scale up your own helpfulness and impact by sharing ideas that matter. And when you think about any one post, you're like, do I believe this idea can help someone else? And if my fundamental posture is service, I'm going to create much better content. So your paradigm around content dramatically shapes your results with content. And it may sound a little bit squishy to some people, but like, what is your heart in all this? And if you have a heart to serve, then you will end up creating content that is much more resonant, therefore much more effective, therefore much more profitable, and you create this virtuous circle.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you see content as like this necessary evil, you might get it 80% of the way there in terms of, yeah, it's a pretty good idea, a pretty good post, but it's not going to be all the way there. And then you're going to create this non-virtuous or negative circle where you're like, see, content doesn't work. And then I look at your posts and I'm like, I know why it didn't work for you. It was soulless. It was self-centered, and not like in a like really nasty way. I just mean like all of your posts were talking about how awesome you are. You know what I mean? So we kind of get what we give in terms of our philosophy around content.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. A lot of people that I have connected with and spoken with, they want to also, they have the desire, they want to do it, but they're hesitant in a sense of like, yes, they have to build a confidence. That's a one thing, right? Like it just do it, kind of, pull the plug, go for it. But also the questions are kind of the philosophy of like, well, what's a practical system or like a habit for me to consistently generate ideas that resonate? What would you say to that? What would your system or kind of approach be, if you will?
So my wife makes fun of me for this, but I'm like, what story do I want to be able to tell afterwards? And I make a lot of business decisions based on like the avoidance of regret.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to like getting over the hump and just being willing to put yourself out there, I'm like, it doesn't, just assume it's not going to get more comfortable. There's always the chance that someone will show up and leave a really nasty comment and willfully, obstinately misinterpret what you were saying and twist it and try
The
to
trolls
embarrass
always
you.
exist.
Yeah. Trolls are attracted to courage, right? It's always easier to tear down than it is to like create something new. So yeah, you assume that it's going to feel awkward at first. Assume that your first post won't be very good. They'll be cringy. You'll look back at them later. You'll be like, oh, I should probably delete all that. You just have to get over that. Right now, granted, the stakes are normally a lot lower than we think at the beginning because no one's paying much attention anyway.
Yeah.
But you can't import the courage. Like you eventually just have to say, I'm more motivated by the results that posting or writing or sharing regularly can get me. I'm more motivated by the upside than I am motivated by staying inside comfort. There's no system that can get people out of that. They just have to make a commitment to do something uncomfortable. Beyond that, and this actually helps. Maybe I do have a system after all. But when it comes to discomfort, I really do think it helps to tell the stories that only you can tell. Because most of the time, people, they're not going to argue. They might argue with your point or your perspective, but they can't argue with your experience.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, I would also say early on, avoid like really controversial topics because you're just sort of tempting fate, or you're making a lot more likely that trolls are going to show up if you decide you're going to do a hot take about this or that. you want to talk politics, I'm like, well, don't be surprised if that becomes incredibly divisive and blows up in your face. But
It
if you're
is
in a
pretty
business
divisive. Yeah.
context,
Yeah.
you know, then what are the stories that only you can tell? What's the point, or what's the lesson? And
Mm.
then what's the tie-in to your target audience? So story, you kind of can't go wrong with just telling stories. And it gives people fewer things to argue with or misinterpret because you're telling a story. They may not like the point that you make, but again, they can't invalidate your experience. And so, and then the last thing I'll maybe say on that is there are exponentially more people who will be supportive and encouraging than there are trolls. We just have this negativity bias hardwired into our brains.
Yeah.
We are always more focused on the one negative comment rather than the 20 or
It seems
40 or
louder,
50.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, look it up, negativity bias. It's like we automatically, our attention automatically jerks to the one naysayer, and we give what they say so much more weight rather than the one person who's like, this made my day better. Thank you for writing this, you
Yeah.
know?
And
So,
those are much better wins. Like, let's be honest.
yes. And
So,
so I've written hundreds of posts. I've attracted my share of trolls, but more than trolls, there are people that I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep writing because my words and my stories and my ideas and my heart and my perspective make a difference to people who encounter one of my posts. So I need to be pulled forward by the impact rather than pulled backward by the fear or discomfort. Someone's going to show up and be ugly and be unfair. I'm going to get bullied. I'm going to get humiliated. That may happen, and you'll survive. Like, I promise you, you will live,
mhm.
especially if you're like, okay, pick myself up, wipe the blood off my face, and write another post tomorrow because I could make someone's life better.
I think we can do like a mic drop there. And like on that one for sure. I have nothing to even contribute. I think that was great and great. Like, honestly, great advice for anyone, whether it be a brand, you're developing your own personal brand, right? Wherever you sit in that, of like, just go with it and trust your instincts, trust your gut, trust your experiences. Um, and that's really your machine, if you will.
Mhm.
So, absolutely. And I I will kind of do another switch up here. As you were talking, a lot of things were coming to my brain. And ClearVoice is interesting because we sit in the middle from a content production standpoint of freelancers and brands, and they both need each other, right? That's where they come in and connect. But I think your perspective would be so nice here, because I think there is a tendency at times where we have, where freelancers wish that marketing leaders perhaps better understood X, Y, and Z. And then on the flip side, where, you know, freelancers need to kind of understand maybe the pressures or what's
Mhm.
going on within what marketing leaders are facing, or
Mhm.
internal, got to get executive buy-in, all of this type stuff. So I think if you had to give, I guess, a snippet of advice, even like, how can both sides create a better win-win relationship that essentially would avoid misalignment and ultimately burnout for everyone?
So I can't remember where I heard this. I'm sure many people have said it, but the idea is, imagine a world where this person's perspective and their behavior makes sense. So you're at a four-way stop, and you come to a complete stop, and the other person, they just cruise right on through, never even brake. And if you hadn't been paying attention, they would have T-boned you and it would have been their fault. Nasty accident. And so you're like, whoa, and you're scared and you want to react and you're like, that idiot. Um, what is a world where their behavior and their decisions would make sense? It's not hard to come up with one when I frame it that way, right? Oh, just found out my wife went into labor. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. I was in my own little world, or I'm running late for work, or like, so when it comes to marketing leaders and freelancers, I've been on both sides. I've been the fractional CMO who put
Mm-hmm.
out some sort of job posting or said, hey, I need to hire for something, get dozens, if not hundreds of responses. I don't follow up with any of them because very soon after I put up a job posting, I find out from the CEO that we've changed directions yet again. I find that irritating, perhaps,
Yeah.
but I'm literally not getting paid to go follow up with 100 freelancers who are wondering if their application or whatever might be considered for this particular writing job or this design job or whatever, right? And it's not because I'm unfeeling, and it's not because I want to create uncertainty or deceive anyone. It's because I don't have the time. So when I see people on LinkedIn complaining about marketing leaders who don't do this or don't do that, I'm kind of like, have you ever been in their shoes? Because
Have
I
you asked
have.
why? Maybe.
Have
Yeah.
you asked
Like,
why? Now, I've had some people who apply to those jobs who follow up with me like in a DM, and they're like, "Hey, what's the status there?" And I always reply, "Here's what happened." And they're like, "Hey, I totally get it. Can you guess who I want to give the job to the next time we like sort of reprioritize?" So,
the communicative
when
ones.
it
Yeah.
the communicative ones, the ones who actually give me the benefit of the doubt, the ones who try to
Mm-hmm.
understand a world where my behavior and decisions make sense, right? Have a little more empathy, a little more compassion. So when it comes to like, okay, how do you do LinkedIn, or how do you create content, and you're trying to match up freelance writers with marketing leaders, yeah, you can create some common rules of engagement and expectations on both sides. I do that with my clients. Here's what you can expect from me. Here's what I expect from you. That can raise eyebrows. What? You're the consultant and you have expectations of me? Yeah. You need to respond to communication within 48 hours, or things are going to grind to a halt. And that's not going to be fun for me or fun for you. So yeah, I'm going to manage up because I've
Yeah.
got a job to do, and you honestly want me to do it even when it irritates you. So
Yeah.
so it all comes down to communication. It comes down to empathy and compassion. Then it comes down to trying to understand that other person's world. But then,
Mhm.
to some degree, especially freelancers or project managers or account executives, they have to be willing to be disliked momentarily so that they can be liked long term because they actually delivered on the project requirements. And like, I'm telling you right now, I've had people manage up, and I was the one being managed because they're
Been
like,
there.
hey, I really need you to make a decision or review the thing or tell me what you want so that I can do the thing you delegated to me. And I'm like, fair, that is a reasonable request. So if people on both sides are giving the benefit of the doubt and they are being reasonable with each other, then I do think it's possible to find that common ground and have really
Yeah.
effective collaborations. And
Yeah.
then I'll also say, on the marketing leader side, never treat freelancers like the help.
I love that. And, it's an interesting perspective because even at ClearVoice, we internally, marketing, our team is small. We have 4 people, and 2 of those are design. So,
Mm-hmm.
really 2 people solely focused on content strategy, X, Y, you name it, right? What do we
Lots of
do?
plates spinning.
We outsource a lot, right? We follow the methodology of really working with freelancers who are experts in their field, right? But why is it effective? Yes, a framework we set up, but ultimately communication and having that common ground and open forum communication of like, hey, I know you need work. This is what things are looking for us right now. Like, I appreciate the outreach, and vice versa. It is that just open forum communication, and we're all humans, and we all have the same or not similar goals at the end of the day. And I can't speak for certain. I'm curious of your perspective here because a lot of people are getting a little antsy, right, when things change, especially in the creative space nowadays. You know, people are kind of like, within the next 2 to 3 years, what is the job market going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
People are getting a little. And what's interesting is that I can't tell you, I'm no expert, but you just kind of listen more and more, and the more I hear is it might be tough, but we're still going to have to do the work. How are we going to have to do that? There might be layoffs, there might be things, but someone's going to have to fulfill on that at the end of the day. And we might be looking, even, we saw a huge blow up within COVID, but is it going to happen again with freelancers? And I think that's, I can't tell you for certain, but that's an interesting perspective. And I think we always kind of need to be on our toes. But what comes with that is sustainability. And how do we kind of ensure that we're not building something with our own personal brand within the brand that's unsustainable? And I think a lot of people struggle with that nowadays because it's not just about your work. It's, especially in, most people are working remote too. It's about your business, your writing, the actual fulfillment you're doing, making time for yourself, for your family, all of that. And if you had to just like give it out there, because obviously we have a lot of freelancers that are in our community and listen, but obviously we work with brands too. How would you personally suggest like juggling such things and kind of ensuring that you have that sustainability for now and even looking onward?
Make decisions faster.
Yeah.
A lot of us who are multi-passionate, multifaceted, multi-talented, multi-potentialite, we're still waiting for certainty.
Mm.
Like, well, hey, I am not going to make a decision until I really know what I want. Oh, I know that because of AI, I probably need to make some changes in my business. Maybe I even need to pivot, but I'm not sure which direction I want to go next. So I'm going to be very slow in making that decision. Certainty is not coming. So, what does it look like to make confident decisions in the absence of certainty? Because
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, you can be confident without being certain. Certainty is a binary, confidence is a spectrum. And so, if you're looking for sustainability in your business, look at the confidence spectrum specifically as it relates to enjoyment. What type of work do you enjoy more? What type of work do you enjoy less? If you use joy as a compass or enjoyment as a compass in your business, you cannot lose. Especially if you combine that with other advantages. I'm not just saying, hey, do whatever you want to do whatever feels good. You still have to find something that the market values. You have to package up services as juicy offers. You
Yeah.
have to use strategic subtraction and really strong positioning. But that all assumes you even know which direction you want to head. When it comes to wayfinding, pathfinding, what am I doing next? Should I be freaking out about AI the same as everyone else? Don't wait for certainty. Start using subtraction in your business and pivots in your business based on what you enjoy more. I don't think you can lose. It is a sure bet to optimize for your own enjoyment. It's like
You're
if
betting
you're
on yourself. Yeah.
by betting on what you enjoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could maybe squeeze out a little bit more stability doing work that you hate, but that's not sustainable either. To
No,
like,
not on your mental health for sure.
so when you think about navigating forward, I call certainty the wizard on the white horse. There's this one scene from The Two Towers by J.R.R.
Yes.
Tolkien where Gandalf shows up at the very end at dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Stop waiting for Gandalf. Stop waiting for the wizard on the white horse. Certainty's not coming. What do I enjoy more? What do I enjoy less? What is the market value more? What is the market value less? Optimize for your own enjoyment, optimize for joy. And no matter what happens in the market, no matter what happens with AI, you will be better off because you won't resent your own business.
I love that. And anyone that can work in a Lord of the Rings reference,
Come on.
that's even
Someone
better.
notice, right?
Yes.
Please.
Immediately, I was like, I know exactly. I can see it. So
Like the
that
horse like
was
rears
perfect.
up and it's Gandalf
The
like
light, you see the lighting, everything. Yep, I got
backlit.
it.
The
Yep.
backlit wizard on a white horse is not coming to save you. Ergo, move forward with confidence, not certainty.
Yes, I love that. I think that's the best advice, honestly. I really appreciate that. Austin, I appreciate you coming on. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of stuff to share, and just good conversations to talk about. If you'd like, plug away. Where can people find you, connect with you? What's the best places?
Sure. So we already mentioned LinkedIn. Send me a DM on LinkedIn. We can talk about growth levers. That's something I'm so geeky about right now. I've got a new training coming out about the 7 levers for growth. So I'm happy to share that as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it was a pleasure. I loved having you on. Perhaps maybe it'd be great to have you back on here in the future.
Thanks again for the opportunity. I appreciate it, Taylor.
Big thanks to Austin. This has been packed with insights, from rethinking growth levers to building content as an advantage to keeping sustainability front and center. And of course, at ClearVoice, we're all about helping marketing leaders and freelancers create more leverage in content. Visit us today at clearvoice.com.